Hello and welcome back to Irrational Passions Presents another review discussion. I am your host, Aria O'Neill, and joining me today to talk Prince of Persia, we have Mike Burgess. Hello.
Hello. We found the crown.
We found it. We lost it.
People will get the bit if they watch the viewpoints. But now we've come full circle from the viewpoints because we lost the crown at the start of that. Now we found the crown because we beat.
Yes.
There you go.
Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, a video game that came out a month ago.
Yeah.
But we've been wanting to do this, so we made the time to do it. So Prince of Persia: Lost Crown available PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, PC, $50. Here it is, the Metroidvania reimagining of Prince of Persia. Remember when they were going to put out the Sands of Time remake?
Oh, I completely forgot about that. You're right. Oh,
yeah.
Wonder where the heck happened to that thing? Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, it got shelved for maybe reasonable reasons of like, we're going to make it exactly how it was, and a white man is going to play the prince.
They're like, oh yeah, you know what? And then. And luckily they put out this set and it's a much better video game, probably, things considered.
Yeah, probably. So we're going to talk about it. As with all review discussions, toward the end, we might talk about a little bit of spoiler stuff. We'll give our thoughts, our feelings, go through some of the story points and the combat, the gameplay, what you like, what you don't like. If you like this, you can listen to it in audio form on Irrational Passions Presents, our kind of catch-all podcast feed. And there's also a video version with a nice background that Mike made and did all this work for on youtube.com/Irrational Passions. Thanks for tuning in, however you're watching or listening or whatever. We appreciate you. So let's kick it off with just some general overall thoughts of the game. How'd you feel about Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, Mike?
Overall, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it quite a bit. It was a fun Metroidvania experience. I think we definitely have mentioned it before, like a little bit in the viewpoints and then Nintendo Land, like recently, and just to fully form the thoughts here in this in our discussion here. Just it's like you said, Ubisoft bloat, but in like this 2D Metroidvania experience of like there's a lot of great stuff in this game that's like really fun. I think is worth your time if you're like especially like a fan of these types of games, because we don't get a ton of them these days, and like usually. When they spring up, they're either like really, really cool or they're like kind of like maybe like, iffy or more on the iffy scale, where like this one I think is like close enough where it's like a much more higher budget ones. I would, again, we don't have to get too much into the comparison of Metroidvania or Metroid Dread versus this or this and that. We did that a little bit more on Nintendo Land, so I guess we could talk, that's discussion is a little bit more there. But overall, I'd say it still enjoyed Metroid Dread more than this game. But I think this game is pretty still close to it. But I think if they had, trimmed some of the fat that was in this game, I think it would be able to stand up to that game a little bit closer overall. But still a lot of really cool stuff in this game. Visuals are awesome. A lot of stuff I did enjoy overall. But we'll get more and more into it, I'm sure. But just general thoughts. Really could have used some trimming down to kind of make a lot of the other stuff be much. I think it would have been a much more overall enjoyable game if some of the stuff was trimmed. But
yeah, an editor. This game could use an editor.
Yeah,
to some extent. Yeah, I think we're kind of just fully on the same page with this one. Like, if you go listen to our Metroid Dread review discussion from way back when that I did with Moises Tavares, that game, in my opinion, is a 10 out of 10. I think it is a perfect Metroid game and a perfect Metroidvania because it's not too long, it's not too short, it is action packed and action focused.
Yeah,
and I think like Prince of Persia gets very close to that. Especially in a lot of ways, like combat and presentation. The voice acting and performances are actually like really, really good, I think. The story is fine, I would say overall. It's not like there are no surprises.
There's no surprises. Like I can't really like. I remember some of like the more end stuff, but like a lot of the earlier stuff, I'm definitely already like blanking on because I think there's kind of like he says, there's no surprises, and like once you kind of get the one point, you're like, okay, I see where this is going, and then You kind of just are doing the motions at that point. So like, yeah, but you're right. The voice performances overall, though, all across the board were pretty good.
Yeah, like the setup of like, oh, you're kind of part of a team, like a Power Ranger style team, right? Of like the Immortals. And there's like a bunch of other, and we all have respect. You got the big guy, you got the kind of scary lady, you got the spear lady,
yeah,
you got the leader, you got the archer, right? Like everybody kind of fills these roles of this ancient Persian hero squad. And then they don't do a lot with that.
Yeah,
like the first half of the game.
I'd say you get like that really cool intro sequence that like kind of is really cool, and like you're like, you know, real time like running through this, like it's kind of tutorialing a little bit of stuff, but it's like much more action packed, and like you're literally having moments where you're like are kind of doing your combat bits, and like they will like leap into combat with you and just be beating the crap out of dudes and showing like their powers and stuff in that same sequence.
Happens again.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, barely happens, or like you get a little bit like later in the game. We'll talk about that. Like, I guess we get to spoilers and stuff, but not as much as I think they could have done.
I was like excited that they were setting up this team, and I thought like maybe they would be like mentors that each teach you a different move, and that's not the direction that.
It's not. Yeah, it's not.
But they do some really fun like timey-wimey stuff, in a way that Prince of Persia is known for, but not the same ways that Prince of Persia has done before, which I thought was pretty cool. But yeah, I just like it's too long. You know, this game's too long. It took me, I think, 24 to 26 hours to finish, and I did a lot of the extra stuff more than I probably should have. To be honest.
That's what I was going to ask, because I think I was a little bit lower than that. I think I was like, I want to say I was probably like 18 to 20ish, but I also like did not like after a certain point. I think I did some of the earlier side kind of questy stuff, and then I realized kind of what it was, and I was like, I'm good, and then kind of just sort of just kept to the main line and didn't really. Yeah, definitely that stuff fell off for me.
Like I love that stuff, but after I finished the game, I was like, and there's like a side quest, and there's some cool side quests in there.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is like get everything, and then you get to do a kind of extra thing. And I never did it because I like was kind of burnt out by the time I finished the game.
Yeah, I was at the same point. Like I remember getting to that moment, and you like kind of get the point where it's at the quest, because it's like towards the end of the game, and it kind of gives you that thing of like, oh, look at these things that are lit up already that you've done but haven't lit up, and like clearly like it's like a cool door you can go through if you do all this stuff. But I was like, at that point, I was at a similar point at the game. At that point, and just like I'm good. I want to see like the end of this game, and I'm good.
It's funny, like a game that came out 2 years ago that we did a viewpoints of, Soldiers, which is another kind of, it's a 2D pixel art Metroidvania, but it's a similar situation where it's like a huge game, and I think my biggest problem with it was that I just didn't think it needed to be as big as it was. It's good. And there's some cool stuff. There's some buggy stuff in that game that Prince of Persia is mostly exempt from. I did run into some weird technical issues, and one crash throughout my playthrough. But it's just like there is like a really, now that we're in an era of Metroidvanias where like they're back, baby, and I'm excited about it and I love it. And you know, Silksong's coming, and I'm positive that I will lose myself in that world and probably put 30 plus hours into that game, or however much stuff that they're cramming into it, because Hollow Knight was massive as well. I do think that there is a balance that needs to be found, because getting around in these games, even like the movement in this game is like so phenomenal, and it's so fun to move around, but like if you're just running so much and you're going through areas for like the 15th 16th time, which sometimes when you're doing the backtracking and to find everything, that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
It is just exhausting, and it really just pumps up that clock, and it just feels too big. And I think that ultimately is like the biggest fault in this game, and with not many others, I'd say. There's some like stuff about it, like moves that will just be forgotten about for like hours, and then they come back into play. Specifically like this, we did in the viewpoints is like this gravity pocket thing that you can do that just like you use like
use like
10 times.
a handful of times. Yeah, I was looking to bring that up of like,
But it's so cool.
yeah. Because this was something I alluded to was like, I think a little bit when we in the Nintendo Land we just did. I think I said of like, if there's like a whole section of this game, they could probably, if they just pulled it out and just truncated it and into a different thing, it would be a much better game. And it was the section that like incorporates that stuff where it is like you have to go to these 3 distinct areas to get these very specific abilities to like break the sashes to go like underground into the sand area place. And like all 3 abilities you get from those sequences like don't really ever show up in meaningful ways post. Like once you do those 3 bits, like you go to each area and those areas are like designed around that little ability you get, like more Metroidvania abilities you get, and you do that. I was kind of expecting to like do all 3 of those and go into that next part and like have like a bigger area that's more incorporating all of those abilities, and like it doesn't at all. And then it's just like, it feels like it's just like a completely separate area. And then you go into later parts of the game, and like you said, like those things show up very occasionally. Like, or it's like optional, like puzzly stuff of like, oh yeah, I can use that like portal grabbing thing to like you said, like the rift to like grab like an explosive and throw it at this like, you know, cracked rock, that ceiling that I can then go through and get like an optional item. And like, that's all you use that stuff for. So I feel like there was just like a point, like once I got past all that stuff and was like playing through the later parts of that game and seeing like how much I like that stuff more. And like the game just becomes more interesting. The abilities you get are more interesting. Environments are way cooler. Like I feel like that whole section could have just been taken out, and like the game would have kind of been better for it in some respects, because like there's just like those abilities are like fine, and like it was fine for those little sequences, but like I feel like they did not add, like once I got past that and I was like, oh, you literally that next zone you go into in that underground area is like when you get the double jump, right? And it's like, oh, I got a double jump now. Like this is pretty much immediately more useful and like better to use in a lot of like different parts of the game than any of the 3 abilities I feel like I got from the other things. But that's kind of where like, I landed.
that whole section too, like underpins some of the pacing issues, and we're in it now. So like just fair warning, everyone. Like you have to go into this sand pit to find a goddess that can potentially reverse time for you. And they send you on this quest to go get stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you get in the pit, and it's like, all right, now you got to go break like 3 locks in the pit, and it's a whole area where like, in my head, the way they set it up was like, I'm going to go in the pit and just go right to the boss.
Yep.
And we're going to get the double jump. Finally, because god damn, does it fucking feel like forever before you get the double jump. And like, there's a line to tote with that where it's like, you want to make it satisfying to finally get it. And Hollow Knight has kind of the same issue with the double jump in that game, where it's like, halfway through that game is when you get it, and then there's like more shit after that you have to get. But like there's still so many new areas to go after you get the double jump. It's mostly like, all right, going back to all the areas you had been before, save for like this ocean level, which is incredible, and we'll get to there. But it just felt like I had to do 3 things, and then I had to do 3 things, and then I had to do 3 more things. And like, it was so exhausting. I normally like that kind of stuff, but I would have preferred if they kind of front loaded the abilities and then let me do everything, right?
Yeah,
like
totally.
It just felt like I was doing 3 big things to get to 3 more big things. And I'd rather like get everything and be able to do 9 things in whatever order I wanted, right? Like that would have been much more enjoyable.
I totally agree. Yeah, that would have been a better way to approach it.
But like the things you're doing, I will say to its credit, are good, like are cool, and they're underpinned by like really incredible boss fights.
Yeah,
I think.
boss fights are like definitely some of the standout stuff in this game. All of them are really good.
Yeah, they're the highlight. I like trying to remember what the first boss fight is. I don't know.
It's like
Manticore, right?
It's I guess there's like sort of technically like the tutorial boss, which I guess you could say where you like fight with a thing. I think there's
it's the boar, right?
Yeah, there's the big boar. There's the big boar. And then I think it's like the boar and like the manticore. I guess you could say like there's like some mini closer like there's other stuff, but I would consider that more like a mini boss, so like a mini encounter, right? Like I remember there's like a dude with like a big stone pillar that like smashes around. You fight early on.
Dead prisoner.
Yeah. But like
crab.
Yeah, some of that stuff. Like there's a mixture of that stuff too, though. That I think is cool. Like there's like the actual full on boss battles you get, which are really cool. But there are like a couple like mini bosses, or like bigger enemy encounters that can be pretty neat. Like, yeah, this is going way off, but there's like a sewer section where like there's like those weird like dudes have like big shields like in the face, and they block off like these long hallways. And you like they like kind of like, you know, run at you and try and stab you, but you get that. Billy's been in a bunch of the Billy's been in a bunch of trailers. So it's like, you know, we're spoilers at this point. But yeah, you can like kind of leave that after image around and kind of like teleport behind it and just take it out. And like I thought that was like, it was like a cool moment. That was definitely like one of those cool Metroidvania moments of like seeing that dude and being like, oh shit, how do I get past this thing? I'll come back later. And then being like, oh yeah, I got this thing, and literally the whole point of it is that, so like then you can just go through that section and go through those areas. So I was like, okay, cool, that's cool, I like that, fun.
Yeah, they show a lot of love to the traversal abilities. Like obviously the air dash, which is like the first thing that you get, is great, as most air dashes are. And I like that later when you get like other aerial abilities, like it'll reset the air dash and it'll reset the double jump. So they play like late game platforming stuff is awesome because they're playing a lot with like you use the grappling hook, which is like the last thing that you get.
It's so good. It's so good.
It's so good, but it's like
it's the very
I
end.
wanted this so much earlier.
Yeah, once you have it, you're just like, oh man, this I'm zooming.
It's so good.
I'm zooming around these maps.
Pull yourself to enemies and pull enemies.
It's so good.
It's so good.
That's that again. It falls back into like what I was saying of just like. You get past those kind of those like little humps. It's like like you said, like collecting the 3 things to get to the 3 things, and then get 3 things, and then you finally can go into the underground area, get the double jump, and then the areas you go after that are like the best parts of the game, in my opinion, because you get like the best abilities, like in terms of traversal, the best like combat stuff too opens up, like all the best bosses, like
like. Once you're in that end game and your grappling hook, you grapple, you air dash, you double jump, and like your wall sliding down to dash, to jump, to grapple, to jump again, to wall slide, to dash. Like it's excellent. And there's the thing is there's a lot of it. You know, when you get to that sand area, which is like I would say roughly the midpoint or like the 2/3 point of the game, and there's just so many parts of that area where again you're doing 3 things again, and it's like you're going up these sand columns or down these sand columns, and it's all spikes everywhere.
Spikes everywhere, and there's like the weird centipedes that like kind of tunnel through it. Yeah, that whole section was just like, okay, this there's a little bit more than this. There's a little too much of this.
So much, and I like because like I'd say the platforming challenges in this game take the most from like Ori, which did like the big spike room where it's like you're never gonna touch the ground for like 2 minutes straight. Basically, it does. There's just like 25 of those challenges in this game, and it feels like way too fucking much.
Yep. 100%. 100% agree. It's definitely just like, we're doing this again. Okay. There's like a lot of, I feel like I definitely did that a lot, like at certain points in this game when you just like go into an area and there's just spikes everywhere, or there's like weird, like slowly moving object, like big objects in the sky that you have to like you slowly, like continually like wall jump on while you're waiting for it to get to the right point so you can like zoom across and stuff. And that's like but that's like why like the grappling, like it feels super satisfying to get that grappling hook move, because it pretty much like negates like a ton of those environments to just be like, oh, I don't care about any of this anymore. I can just hit this thing. I can grab this weird little flying enemy and zoom across and like dash around and stuff. And it makes that stuff feel good at least. But yeah, like going through the motions to get that way, it was like, man, this is, I don't think there need to be this much.
Yeah.
Like you said.
And then like, I don't hate any of the abilities, like the dimensional claw, which is the pocket dimension thing.
Yeah.
Which they just like, they use early on, or they do the thing with that where it's like, you can carry something in that pocket forever, but then you'll like get to a spot where you need a bomb and it's like there's none nearby.
Yeah.
So you have to like go backtrack to the previous area,
Yeah.
get a bomb, then get all the way back up, and then you can blow up a thing. And luckily they never at any point in the game do the thing where you blow up a wall and then right behind it
is another one. Yeah.
Blow up. They never do that, and I'm so grateful. So thank you for that. But if they had, I would have been pissed. It just feels like underutilized in a way that's a bummer. And then the other ability that's, I think, not underutilized, they use it, is clairvoyance, which is the Ikaruga like dimension swap where things, platforms will become available. Like they use that ability a lot, but like sometimes I was like, maybe this is too much.
Yeah, because like they do like there's like definitely a few platforming sections like we mentioned where it's like walls of spikes, but then like your platforms are you have to be like mid jump, like reversing through those multiple times where it's like, all right, reverse now to get through this thing, and you can dash and then like reverse it again, right all within that one dash air dash to like land on the right platform at the same time. And it's like a lot of like, yes, it's a lot of like juggling,
click in the right stick to do this dimension swap.
Yeah, and it's a lot of juggling that was like, okay, this is maybe a little bit too much. So, I totally get what you mean.
But again, you get the grapple, you get the double jump, you get the air dash. Those three, I think, when they're put in tandem, are great. And the shadow ability where you can like leave a shadow and then warp back to it, I think it's cool. I don't know if it gets used enough. And then later in the game, you get the ability to throw your chakram. And then you basically use that as your shadow. And so you can throw something and then warp right to it. And that like kind of undercuts that whole ability.
Sure.
Obviously, like there are situations where you have to do the shadow, like the big shield-faced slug monsters that you were talking about in this too, where it's like you have to leave a shadow behind. They go through, you warp behind them, and then you stab them. The throwing the chakra or chakram is more like later. There are like graded walls, and you can throw the chakram through them and then warp through the wall, basically. But I don't know. That's like just the two of them. There's never a balance between those two abilities, right? Like, you're never using either of them enough, I think. Yeah,
the thing I guess for me that made me enjoy those a little bit more maybe was that I actually used them a lot in the combat, and like that's like using them in those and some of like the bosses in particular and some of like the big combat moments was pretty fun. And there's definitely like moments like that like made those like much more fun to use in those sequences where it was like, oh, this boss is about to shoot like a big laser in the sequence. I can throw the chakram up and like warp to it. And then like, I would throw the chakram up, warp to it, leave an after image, and before I'd like fall into the move, I could warp back up to it and like stay out of the air and like, and dash around and do that. So like I used it a lot more in like those sequences, like, again, I guess, getting into spoilers again, but like in the later half of the game, when you do that, you kind of, there's like a story beat where like you learn like, oh, the leader of this band of people you were in is actually like the bad guy. Spoilers. And like he has his own agenda to do things, and then he kind of tells the rest of the group that you're actually like, oh yeah, you took out this dude. And that's like the whole reason you're kind of reversing time to save the prince. You're trying to save the prince essentially, and then that leads you into then like a lot of the later game bosses are fighting against those characters, and like yeah, the immortals, and like using that in those boss fights was like super fun. Like using it like like I think the thing that made me connect a lot with it was like the arrow fighting the arrow bow and arrow guy, where because he was like much speedier and he was doing that himself in the moves too, where he like zoomed out. Because I'm pretty sure that's where you get that. Is that where you get that ability? Get that.
Yeah.
So like he's like pretty much doing it in combat. So like seeing that I was like, oh, that makes sense. And then when I went and you fight like the big guy with like, you know, he has like a freaking like anchor for like a weapon or whatever, and like using it against him, that was like super kind of fun because it felt like you were doing the kind of turn the tables, and I was the one zooming around that guy to like kind of take him out, and it was fun.
Yeah. And like that's that turning point when you start fighting the other immortals. It's weird that you only fight 2 of them also.
Right.
Like, and then the final boss obviously is the other guy. It's like I wanted to fight all of them, I guess.
Yeah, it would that would have been like a cool, like, you know, going back to like
bosses.
Yes, like going back to like, you know, there's some side questy stuff, but like a lot of it did not really like super grab me. But you know, something like that, if I would have known like, oh yeah, you like having an optional boss fight against one of those immortals would have been kind of cool to like
the lady,
kind of come across.
The spooky lady with the mask on, you know, she's like, I'm gonna fucking kill you at one point.
Yeah.
And then she disappears.
Yeah,
like,
you just don't see her. Yeah, you just don't see her. Yeah.
And I like there's a secret area that you find where she like leaves a note where she mentions how she's like in love with Varum, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like a bunch of corpses and stuff there. And I was like, oh, maybe you come back here and fight her later. Nope. Which is weird. Maybe like that's the 100% completion bonus. Like maybe we didn't do enough.
That's
like a bummer thing to put behind that
much stuff. Yeah, I agree.
But I do want to say, while we're on the subject, combat is absolutely a highlight. Like not just fighting bosses, which is great, and like it's really cinematic, and B, you've got those like Metroid Dread style cinematic parries where like you see the yellow flash and you can parry that, and it does a whole scene where you like beat ass and it looks so cool, and sometimes they hit you and then you just hit them back. It's so great. But like moment to moment combat against like small enemies, big enemies, like all of it I think is like really, really excellent.
Yeah, agreed. It feels really good. It's like you have like pretty basic combos, but then as you get more and more stuff, again, like I like, you know, by the end of it, it felt really good having like grappling right to enemies and slashing them up, or like, you know, warping around a lot more. Was like I really liked a lot of that stuff when it opened up. The only like minor gripe I would say, and I don't know how you felt about this, was like you get those super moves, and like I felt like I pretty much got one super move, and that was the only one, because I felt like none of them were as good as that one. And it was like the big, like you do like this, he does like a big like AoE spin attack, and it does like the spins and it catches enemies, and like that felt like so much better than all of the other ones, because with that you can literally like that like stun locks almost everything in the game. Like even like a lot of the bosses, like if you get them in that, it just keeps them in place, and they're just stun lock and getting hit by it a billion times. And then you, while that thing is still going, you can just run up to them and like, you know, combo and slash into them. So you like, it just was like, why would I ever use this compared to like a weird like there's like the one where he does like a big X slash into the sky or whatever, and they look cool. Like you said, like it's very cinematic and animated, and they all look cool. And like and I like the like conceit of like you're finding like a past version or a future version of you,
alternate version of you.
Like when you get these abilities, and you have to fight like basically like a shadow version of yourself that has the ability, and they'll use occasionally, like if you are in the fight with them long enough, they'll straight up use it on you. I definitely had that happen to me in a few fights. And so like that, like all that stuff is cool, but it's just like I got that ability, and was like every time I saw a new one, I was like, that does not look as good as the one I got. And that one you get pretty early, so I just like pretty much never really used any one besides that.
Yeah, I was on the opposite side. I used all of them.
Cool.
I loved a lot of them. I would say I like had that healing rift one on me like all the time for boss fights. So keep in mind, I was playing on like hard mode, so like whatever one up from the medium difficulty was. which I thought was pretty good. I like early on when you don't have a lot of health and everything does like half your health.
Yeah,
It
it
was
was
not
it was
super
rough.
fun.
Yeah,
But like once I had a big health bar and like all of the healing potions, because I think you cap at 5.
yeah, that sounds right.
Sorry, I dropped something. Once I had that, I was like more comfortable mixing up those super moves. And I played another part of this is like the accessories, the charms that you get,
Yeah.
which it takes a while before it feels like those really hit their maximum potential.
Yeah,
Like
agreed.
many of them are like 3 or 4 cost to use, and the cap is like 11. So it's like most of the game you have a cap of 6, and you have like 2 charms on that are like decent. But
Yeah.
once you get to like that point where it's like, okay, I can have 5 charms on and kind of have a build. We showed a little bit of this in the viewpoints too, of like,
Yeah,
oh, here's like 5 charms that are all about using the bow, and they change it in different ways, like give you fire arrows or give you multi-shot, things like that, and you can upgrade them so they perform better, do more arrows, do more damage, things like that.
Yeah.
So I had the setup where anytime I parried something, which I was parrying all the time, excellent parry in this game.
yeah,
Love it.
feels good.
Too many moves that you can't parry, but which
Yeah,
did annoy me a little bit, but I get it. It's very powerful parry. I had it set up so if I parried continuously, I would get like basically full 3 meter almost instantly,
yeah,
which was great for boss fights. So I would do a lot of the level 3 meter abilities. The one that you're describing is 2 meter.
yeah. Hmm.
It's very good. The healing rift is 2 meter as well, but there's one that like you go into a super mode basically where you can triple jump and do more damage, and your combos are longer.
Hmm.
And you have like ranged attacks on all of your base attacks. And then when you beat Melodius, Malone, I don't know, the bow guy,
Yeah, the bow guy,
and Orog, like you get their super moves basically, and the bow guy, his is a counter, is like a counter that counters everything, even red flash moves, and I actually used that through the end of the game after I got it, because I
Cool.
countered every boss's super move basically, and it felt so good.
Yeah,
It looks great too. So yeah, I really like the super moves. I liked the charms toward the end. I think again early on it's like I feel like I can't really do much with these,
yeah,
but later it you feel a little bit more freedom, and that's just like I think it hurts the pacing more in its own way, not a major way, but in its own way of like you feel very restricted early on in a way that's a little stifling, especially like you can't double jump, you can't do this, you can't do that. You can't have a lot of charms. You can't build yourself out in a variety of ways. You
Yeah.
kind of want to use just those really strong supers because there's not a lot of choices. But like I said, the base, like I like that you can do hit and then hold up and then like juggle something and then follow up and then hit and then hold down and then do like a charge shot down. Like there's a lot of different moves you can move into each other to create strings of combos that are like really, really good and really fun and flashy and feel great to pull off. So combat was a focus in this game, and I appreciated that.
yeah. I definitely wish there was definitely times like bringing up the way too many spike wall sections. I wish there was like a little bit more combat, because I like whenever you do get to combat, it was like it's really fun and good. And then like obviously like the boss fights are like some of like the best sequences in that. What would you say is your favorite boss fight?
The lady on the wolf, dude, is
Yeah,
so
fun.
Such a good fight. Kiana,
really cool.
that's her name. I have a list of the bosses' names up, so I know them. Yeah, and it's like you hear about it early on too when you go to that forest area, which I think is like one of my favorite aesthetic areas just in the game. I mean, like, yeah, the forest spirit here was corrupted a long time ago by a witch, and like they never bring it up again. But then you like just walk into this room with the lady on the wolf, and I'm like, oh shit, what's about to go down? And it's just like this epic fight where she's like riding him and slashing at you, and then they're both attacking you separately, and you can parry both of them. It's so cool.
Yes. The parry from that fight is really cool, because you basically just like you like stop them both and then like launch him, like do like the anime move where you like smack them into each other, and you're just like, yeah, let's fucking go.
That's so good.
It's
and, like,
great.
the all of the like the big fights, like there's at the end there's like a Dark Souls fight with the dead king or whatever that I was like,
Yes, I would.
where is this coming from?
Yeah,
But
I would.
it's so cool.
Yeah, I would say like that. Like going, I would say like it's a tie between that fight and like the anchor guy. You forgot. You said his name, but I forgot his name. I think Orod. Where you fight him on like the ship. Like it's a tie between those because the king comes out of nowhere and it's just like the coolest fucking fight
so
ever because
cool.
you went through like that's like the point where you've gotten the grappling hook, so you went through like this whole like snowy mountain sequence.
Yep.
And like I will say like the story is kind of whatever, but like that was like a cool lore moment because it felt like totally like fucking Elden Ring, Dark Souls tier. Like he is like the king that was betrayed, and he's like left, but he was still like alive somehow in this mountaintop, and he's like waiting for the successor to like take him down, and then you just like fight him, and he's using like, and he has like multiple abilities and like and towels and stuff, and he has these huge sequences where he like slams the ground and it like fully gets covered in ice, and you have to like use the grappling and like the warping around. I was using a bunch to like stay way up in the air and waiting for him to finish his moves and then come back down. Yeah, just really cool fight. In particular, I like that one a lot. It was super fun.
It's like straight up like there's a enemy and a boss in Dark Souls 2 that is like very like Old King.
Yeah,
has a sword and walks around like that. Super similar. It has to be like one-to-one inspiration, but they did such a great job of like making that kind of feel like a Dark Souls fight too, even though it's 2D. It totally took me by surprise. I was like, I didn't know we were about to do this. I knew we were going to fight something up here, but I thought the game was going to end. And I'll say like the final fight is good. It's just not the best fight in the game.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's like five phases.
Yeah, it's a lot of phases. Yeah,
it's like maybe it didn't need to be this long.
But yeah.
But the other fight you have with Varum, who is the final boss, you fight like it's very weird. It's so JRPG where it's like God Varum and he's got angel wings and stuff. It felt like I was playing a Final Fantasy game at that point.
Yeah, you have to go kill God now. Yeah.
Where you like you finally do the thing and you go back in time to rematch with Varum, and you're fighting him with like another version of yourself.
A past time version of you. That was fun. Yeah,
that was super sick, and I was super into that. And at some point, he's like, "Get this nerd out of here!"
Yeah, he just like punches the old one like across the map, anime style. Yes, that's great.
Yeah, it's there's like a lot of anime stuff in the fights in this game, and it's like they knew what they were doing in the best way. Like they understood the assignment for sure.
Yeah, it's really good.
I'm trying to think anything else. Like side quests we kind of brought up. Story we kind of brought up. The best parts of the story are like Varum, not Varum. God, what's his name? The main character's name is like Sergen?
Yeah, it's like it's something. It starts with an S. I forgot. I immediately forgot.
I'm so bad with names. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But you know, like
I think it's Sargon, right? Sargon.
Sargon. Thank you.
Yeah. This came to me.
The times when you meet the other Sargons, and like it is like the timelines crossing, and you don't really ever understand the time curse that's happening on Mount Koth. It's like everything's kind of always happening and no one's aging and everyone's stuck here and everyone remembers being here for a long time, but sometimes they don't. And you don't know if you're like talking to someone that's been here for a while or if you're meeting them for the first time again type deal. Like that stuff I think is really, really cool. They play around with it a little bit. Mostly Sargon's kind of like internal conflict of like, trying to stop Varum and do the right thing effectively for Persia, which is in kind of like a civil crisis at the moment. That is the best stuff. The like betrayed by your master story is pretty by the numbers. I'd say.
Just like okay, got it. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that one.
And I like the side characters. Like there's the blacksmith is like a goddess who's a cool lady that upgrades your stuff, and she's got some cool dialogue, and there's like an old sage lady and a young girl that gives you map fragments and stuff like that. Those characters are cool. The immortals are cool. None of them ever like get the love I think they deserve, but it's fun for like a romp of an adventure type deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just set up for like cool fights is like really all it feels like a lot of times for sure.
Yeah.
And like overall though, like I the story definitely did not stick with me too much, but like I think what you said, yeah, I agree with for sure. Like the having those like kind of questionable moments with like what's going on with like where we are in the time and like how long has Sargon actually been here and like seeing the alternate Sargons that like had their own like ideas about like, oh, we could team up together and take everything and like like seeing all this extra stuff was kind of cool ideas for sure.
What was your favorite level? Like favorite location?
By far is like the frozen like ocean like ship stuff. Like there's a whole like you right after you get done the 3 like you go into like the pit and fight the goddess, like the big snake boss, which is also a pretty cool boss. I should mention like before you, that's like where you fight her to get like the double jump. She like sends you on a mission to like go to different parts of the map. And there's one that's like you go through like this like pirate like shanty town like zone, which is kind of neat. But then like you go through that and
a lot
you
of
get
traps.
yeah. And it's like one of the things you like see, you can see on the map too. I think at a certain point is just like you just see like it looks like a start of an ocean almost, and you're just like, okay, I'm gonna get on like a boat and go to another area, and it's like no, it's just you walk over there, you just see like a massive tidal wave and like a destroyed ship that's like on fire, but it's all frozen in time. And you like the whole sequence area of that is like literally like you platforming through like destroyed ships in this big sea battle while they're like on fire, and like some of them are like shattered and exploded in the air, or you're like literally like walking on top of water that's like frozen in time. And there's like a bunch of weird like sea enemies that are like, can still like navigate through the water, but whatever. It's just a really cool whole sequence. And like you go through all of that, and then that's when you fight Arad, and then like you have like his fight, and then like when you beat him, it like unfreezes everything at the end, and it's just like and everything like kind of goes back, and it's just like it's just like a really cool visual sequence. That whole thing, I was just like, man, this is cool as hell area, and like such a creative area for that. It's really cool.
Yeah, I really like the forest. I also really like the archives with like, the dread style dudes,
like the prison, the prison dude who chased you down. Yeah, that was cool too.
Mm-hmm. And then you can like get sent to the prison, and you have to like break out and do all these things to get out of there, and then you come back later after you have the key and stuff, and there's other prisoners there that you can fight later, which is cool, and they're all like little optional fights. They did a really great job with this Mount Koth as like the location. It has all these very distinct areas that are memorable. I'd say it's just like they're maybe too big, or it's not that they're too big. You just have to go through all of them so many times, especially if you're like trying to do stuff as you get abilities, as opposed to like you really should just like play until you have all the abilities,
then try and get everything. Yeah, that probably would be a better approach. You're right. Like, because I definitely had the time. Feel
underpowered for a lot of the fights.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely good point. Because I definitely felt that too. Of like there'd be a lot of times where it's like, oh, I got this thing now. Let me go try and run around and see if I can use this anywhere. And then it turns out a lot of times, like especially with those like kind of first 3 abilities, like you don't really need to use them much in a lot of things, like the claw, or like throwing the thing through to like warp to it or whatever. Like there's not a ton of like extra things. There is some you can find, and like the one nice thing is like definitely you recommend using a lot is like the little like snapshot memory thing of like you can do cool. Where it's like you literally can just hit it up on the D-pad. I was playing on PS5, so that's where I was doing that, and like you just hit it, and it basically like takes a snapshot, and then whenever you pull up the map, there'll be like a little icon, and you can just scroll to the icon, and it'll pull up the screenshot you took, so you can see like, oh, this is where I found like a thing I couldn't open yet because I didn't have the right ability, or like a certain item, or like something like that. And you could kind of backtrack to that once you know like what abilities you need and stuff like that. So that was a cool little feature that they talked up, I think, when they were right around when they released the game, and I think it is really cool. I like the feature a lot.
It's definitely like a thing I want to see in more Metroid style games.
Yeah, for sure.
Any other thoughts, feelings?
Um, nothing too much, I guess. You know, I'd be curious just like what's next for like Prince of Persia as a whole. Like we talked about it, about like there being, apparently there was going to be like a remake of the original game or one of the games. And this, I wonder if like, you know, this game didn't seem like it didn't seem like it like blew like it was like, you know, it blew everyone away, and like in terms of like, you know, sales success. But it seems like it's still fairly well received, and I think still like sold okay, at least as far as I'm aware. So be curious if they want to like do another one of these, or you know, maybe take this is the direction they take this. I would definitely would be totally down to see, like, you know, now that they've done this one, and like if what were they now they like, you know, learned from this one and can refine a sequel, like what does that look like, right? Like if they got that opportunity to do that, would be cool. So
yeah, I think this is great. I think it's a great format. I would love to see another one. I think they could do a game like this that is 3D also.
Sure.
That like takes a lot of the lessons from this, but like I do think Metroidvania fits Prince of Persia really well.
Yeah.
And I'd love to see them play with timey-wimey stuff more. You know, that's kind of been the shtick since Sands of Time came out. And I think it like I like that this game's approach to time manipulation is not just like reversing time, speeding up time, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It is like the kind of more wider concept of time sickness in a way, you know, kind of like feels like I don't know if you've seen the movie Annihilation, where they're in like this fucked up cancer hole of the world. It has like of like reality is kind of unmaking itself as we're going through it. I'd love to see them like go even deeper, more stuff like the frozen ship battle and all this weird time stuff, you know. But yeah, I feel like this could translate to 3D okay, more okay than something like Metroid, which I think is more complicated, just because of the melee combat and all that. But yeah, I like this. I want more of this. To me, because this is a review discussion, if I were to put a button on this, I would give this is like a perfect 8.0, like the definition of an 8 for me. In that it's great. It has some issues. It's a little long in the tooth is the main one. That does hurt it in a lot of ways, especially pacing wise. But it's like such a fun time. It has so many highlights. I had a great time playing it. I would play it again, you know, in a couple of years when I forget about this game. I'll be like, oh yeah, like I know now that I should just play until I get all the abilities. So like knowing that, it's like, yeah, let's go through it again, fight the combat, see those bosses again. I'd love a boss rush mode for this for sure. So yeah, I think it's a great game.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's really, really good. Definitely easy recommend if you're somebody who likes Metroidvanias in general. Yeah. Like it's on pretty much every platform. So definitely easy to get if you've played like a bunch of other Metroidvanias like Metroid Dread or Hollow Knight or other things like that. Ori and stuff. Like I think you would like this. Definitely enjoy this one quite a bit. So yeah,
totally. Well, thanks for talking Prince of Persia with me, Mike.
No problem. Absolutely.
If you like this, you know, go check out Helm the Tower and Nintendo Land that Mike and I also host. Check out our other review discussions. Hopefully there will be more in the future. Potentially about Final Fantasy. We'll see. I know, I'm very excited. And thanks for hanging out. Subscribe on YouTube because we're trying to do more videos, and we love you very much. We will see you next time.
Bye.